The only way you're ever going to get to the other side of this journey is you have got to suffer to grow. To grow, you must suffer. And some people will get it and some people won't. Your life was basically the perfect grounds for training for where you need to go in your life. All the beatings, all the bullying, all the, you going through learning disabilities, all the struggles. It was the absolute perfect training ground for you to go to where you need to go. And that's how I started looking at my life versus woe is me, poopy pants, kick a rock down the street mentality. It was, God just hooked you right the fuck up.
What would you do if you weren't afraid? And I love thinking about that when I'm thinking about big life decisions. Like, what would I do if I weren't afraid? And it's usually like the big one, the bigger thing that I really want to do, but I'm afraid to do it. It's like, that's what I should do.
And the crazy thing is that you can change your life in one decision. I can get drunk, drive in a car, and change my life forever, right? It can happen like that. But it can happen just like that the other way. It's just that the outcome's delayed. That's the only difference. You can change your life today in this moment by making these decisions, and your life path will have veered. You will have changed direction. Your tree of life will move. It's just that it takes time for that new direction to bear fruit. Whereas you can poison the fruit in a second. You can kill a tree real fast. You just can't grow one real fast. But it doesn't mean that if a seed's planted and you're watering it, it's not growing. It just takes a second to get above the surface.
Habits are hard to break, man. And the habit of not doing things is unbelievably difficult to get past. It's one of the problems with anyone that listens to your show or my show. You will love being cerebral, right? You will love the idea that I can use cognitive horsepower to just get myself out of problems. And there is a case of learning as masturbation, right? And believing that learning about something is the same as enacting it, and it's not. That's why it has to be action first. A quote from one of my friends that he uses when he's thinking about a concept is, does this grow corn? Basically, is it useful? Tell me how I can use this in my life. Does it grow fucking corn, right? It's this beautiful sounding concept, cognitive bias that helps me understand the way that my brain works and my relationship with everybody else. How do I use that in my life? Give me something to apply it to. And that's why with the confidence thing, choose promises that you will never break to yourself. I'm going to get up on time for the next month. I'm not going to hit the snooze button. If you do that and you look back in a month and you go, oh my God, that's the first time I've done that in forever, maybe. That's a big win. And you can do the James Clear thing. We'll write it on a board, we'll track it, what gets measured, etc., etc. But the main thing is just keep promises to yourself. And that is a good way to go from, here is an insight I learned about, I want to do breathwork, cold plunge, go to the gym, fast until 12 midday, get up on time, sunlight in the eyes, and then whatever it is, right, that you want to do, turn it into a promise. Don't break the promise.
I want to see that guy who immersed himself in fucking hell. And he thought about quitting and leaving and his wife and his kids. And why am I here? Is it worth it? All this crazy shit. And still said and found out a way to get through it. So basically that's the bottom line of it all. We all want to read about how we can quickly get somewhere. That's why the 6-minute abs and all sort of shit is so powerful. You may get some results from it, but they're not permanent. Several people live to be 100 years old and they have great lives and they have great kids. Their kids go to college and all sort of stuff. But somewhere in their life, there was a point where they had a decision to make. They can go left or right on this path. Left was the easy route. Right was the hard route. A lot of people take the easy route. And they had a good life that way, but the better life was going to the right side. And you may have 20 years of pain and suffering to get past it, but a lot of us die never truly starting our journey.
If you had to create a human, what would you put them through to make them tough? It probably wouldn't be a really chill life.
Yeah.
What would you put them through to make them patient? Well, you probably wouldn't give them things immediately. And so it's like, we want these traits, but each of the traits has a price tag attached to it. It's just like, do you want to pay the price tag to get the thing? And so I think if people reframe the period of life that they're going through as the price that they're paying out of their wallet, but the wallet is their time, it's the seconds of life that they're trading for it, then I think more people will be willing to make the trade. Because at least when I look at myself, Like when I'm 80 something years old and I'm looking back on my life, I want to have these traits. But in order to have those traits, I know I have to go through these things. And I think for me, that's given me a lot of comfort in hard times.
You have to kill your current self for your new self to have room to grow. And so it's this constant appraisal of your skills and activities and saying, which of these makes me stronger? Which of these makes it more likely for me to hit my goal? And I just want to give you that frame because that single frame of, is this person being in my life make it more likely or less likely that I hit my goal? Is this activity or this behavior that I do make it more or less likely that I hit my goal? And I consistently just ask that question over and over and over again. And that is because for me, I do love my goals more than I love my friend, because my goals will be with me long after they are. And so if you think about your relationship with your goals and you put it on the same pedestal or higher than your relationship with your friends, you're going to lose one of the relationships. And the question is, which one is the one that's going to serve you more in the long term?
You're going to lose sleep. You'll doubt whether it'll work. You'll stress to make ends meet. You won't finish your to-do list. You'll wonder whether you made the right call and have no way to know for years. This is what hard feels like, and that's okay. Everything worth doing is hard. And the more worth doing it is, the harder it is. The greater the payoff, the greater the hardship. If it's hard, good. It means no one else will do it. More for you.
Right. And it's not just me that's got better. The world is undeniably a better place because of the sort of person that I've become. I'm a better friend, I'm a better son, I'm a better boss, I'm a better partner. I've had the fortune of reaching tens of millions of people on this podcast, and I've given TEDx talks, and I've improved the texture of my own daily existence because of the process that your work triggered. You do not know the depth of impact that your work has had. And if the option had been there, I, and probably a lot of other people, would have happily taken on our share of your suffering over the last year, if it would have somehow helped as a thank you for how you've helped us. So
you have to make that a tattoo on your fucking brain, so when that hard time comes again, you don't forget it. You may forget it for a second, but you can go back in the cookie jar, I call it. It's something that we've all endured. And tomorrow, I go back to the grind again and again and again and again. I don't have time to put you into the hate bank. There's no hate. It's all filtered out, man, through the grind. People don't get it. There's great joy in the grind. Great joy in the suffer. It totally cleanses your body out, man, of any kind of hate. Makes you grow up. You were there. You know this. There was no one there to pick up the rucksack, to pick up the boat, to pick up the log, to go in there. It was you. It was you. There was no pat in the fucking back at 300, at 275, at 250, at 220. No, that was you. Years of sacrifice, of suffering, of diligent, pinpoint fucking work on what you want to do for yourself.
I think a lot of entrepreneurship and even personal growth is training yourself on how you respond to hard. Because in the early days, hard was, ooh, stop. This isn't good. This is a warning sign. This is a red flag. I should slow down, or I should stop, I should pivot. But the more I think about it as a competitive landscape, as I'm clear on what this path is supposed to look like, and these rocks and these dragons are things that I'm going to have to slay along the way to get the princess or get the treasure, I get happier about the harder it is because I know that no one else will follow.
It's a selection effect.
And I think if you can shift from this is hard to no one else will be able to do this, then it flips from being this thing that you're like, oh, poor me, to oh, poor everyone else who's going to have to fucking try.
Yeah.
And I think that is so much more motivating as a frame for the exact same circumstance. I started thinking, like, every day, I was like, I hope I don't wake up. You know what I mean? And that was the thing where I was like, this is a big enough problem that, like, if you don't want to wake up, then
what have you got to lose?
Exactly. And that was it. And I was like, I have nothing to lose. And that was when I think in the last podcast we talked about this, where it's like, if everybody who's like at the bottom and feels like they have nothing going for them, reframe that as I have nothing going for me, which also means that I have nothing to lose by taking action, it makes you a much more dangerous person. The three most common traits of hyper successful people. So number one was that they had a superiority complex. They thought they were better than other people and that they deserved more. The second is that they suffered from massive insecurity and feeling that they would never be enough. And third, they had impulse control. And so you've got this combination of people who are like, I want to do this big thing. So this big toward thing. And they've got this big away pain that's like, I'm never going to be enough. I always have to do more. And then they have impulse control that keeps them focused on the goal without seeing the woman in the red dress or getting pursued by her. And that, like, so it's like shoot high, have a big thing that motivates, like have a big tiger behind you and stay on the path.
Dana White said, I fucking love that guy. I know
Me
that
too, man.
we're both big fans of
yeah.
him. Dana, we're coming for you. He had this really great reel that someone repurposed that said, I think he's got sons.
He has.
Yeah. I tell my sons, it's all out there for the taking right now. If you have a gram of talent and an ounce of hard work, you'll run these pussies over. And it's like, it's true. Like there is, the bar has never been set lower. And I understand, you know, if you wallow in Reddit and the dark recesses of Twitter, that you can believe that you are a genetic dead end as a man and there is nothing that you can do, or as a woman that the culture is, you're kind of at the mercy of the culture in a way, and you maybe feel like you missed a time of glory or that was more appropriate for you. Maybe it was the 1950s, or maybe it was the fucking Middle Ages, I don't know, right? You feel wistful for a life that you never got to lead. But the truthful fact is, I don't think there's ever been a time where there's been more opportunity and a lower degree of competition.
Agreed.
Like we've just said, the average American, that's the average American, right?
Yeah.
Obese, less than 1K in the bank and divorced, right? Like it's so low. And I understand that it can seem like you're talking from an ivory tower, or well done, you had this sorted, but I didn't have it sorted. I didn't have it sorted for a very long time.
None of us did.
You know, I had days where getting 1 foot out of my bed onto the floor was a task so great that I couldn't do it, right? That I just couldn't bear to open the curtains, I couldn't bear to speak to anybody. And ostensibly outside, I had the entire life sorted. Okay, so what does that tell you? It tells you that material conditions don't actually always determine your internal state. So don't presume that the things that you're chasing for are actually going to fix whatever your internal problem is. And also don't use your external state as an excuse for the way that your internal feelings are. That's not to say that you can't get to a state of destitution where it's pretty much impossible to be happy.
Yeah.
But
So whenever shit gets nasty, David Goggins goes, "You had nobody anyway, motherfucker." So see how I'm talking myself right now? That's me. That shit fires me the fuck up. That shit makes me fucking nuts. You had nobody anyway, motherfucker. Look around you. There was no fucking team. It was you. There was no weight loss program or mom and dad waking you up saying you can do it, you can be better, trying to build belief. You built belief when you had nothing. The truth in front of you is it sucks. It's painful. It's fucking mind-numbing. And that is the truth. If you want to be great, you want to be the baddest motherfucker ever at what you do, you're going to be misunderstood by everybody because you're going to be so fucking obsessed and so driven to get there. That's what it takes.
That's the truth.
It takes every second of your fucking life. Anybody says balance? Yeah, balance is important for a lot of fucking people. It is. But if you want to fucking go to that edge where people do not like you, don't understand you, question everything you fucking do, you've arrived. When you are misunderstood to the point where fucking people think you're psycho and you're nuts and you're this and that, why are you in the fucking gym at 1 o'clock in the fucking morning? You just got through doing an op for fucking 13, 14 hours at the ranger school, man, at the gym. What's wrong? You will never understand what is wrong with me. And that's why I'm so fucking glad you don't, because I'm in the right fucking spot. When people don't understand you anymore, you're in that spot of obsession and drive. Where people are like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? I don't want to talk to you, man, because you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it. At 43, I'm still putting 100 miles a week. Still doing thousands of pull-ups. Thousands of push-ups. Because I'm not allowing myself to become civil. You lose that fucking fight. You lose that. Why the fuck am I doing this shit? I'm good. You ain't good, man. You ain't never fucking arrived. And that's just my mentality. You may have more, but you've never fucking arrived. You want to be uncommon amongst uncommon people. Period. If you're, like for me, what got me in trouble with the Navy SEALs is I wanted to be one so bad. So bad. I fought my ass off. And I saw them as uncommon people. Very uncommon. But once you become a Navy SEAL, you're all Navy SEALs, so guess what happens? You're fucking common again. I wanted to be uncommon amongst uncommon people. I'm able to just extract dopamine, the good dopamine whenever I want. Man, I've trained 99% of my life alone. No one pat me on the back. I did all of the work alone. And while I'm still hard on myself, I know what I did. So whenever times get bad for me, people, all this, who's gonna carry the boats and what? That's real. I hate that people know me for that guy, because that guy is not every fucking day. Like when they see me, they want that energy. That's not me every day. I can extract it immediately when I need to, because when you train alone, and I lived alone for so many years in this misery, and you're able to get out by yourself, I can take myself to such a level of real passion and purpose. And like the feeling I get is something I can't even explain by myself. I don't need anyone. That's why people come to me to motivate them. No one can motivate me. Basically, I made a decision about 23 years ago that I was a loser. I call myself a born loser. I don't feel that way now, but that's how I felt a long time ago. And I made a decision to go all the way in. And a lot of us have this mindset of balanced. It's important. We all have family. A lot of us have kids. A lot of us have wives, husbands, moms, dads, brothers, sisters, all that shit. But if you want to be part of that 1%, which I know all of you want to be, I'm sorry to say, you got to throw that balanced shit in the wind. The only way you can do it is if you go all the way in and talk to your family and say, I'll be home, but not today. So the thing about it is, the unbalanced mind allows you to do everything at a level that most can't even fathom. They look at you, they see you grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding. And while they are at this mediocre level, you slowly rise and rise and rise. I call it front loading. If a lot of you right now want to be the best, you front load your life. So then that family that you were unbalanced with, you bring them on board when you're 40, 50, and 60 and say, okay, now I'm home forever because I'm making a shit ton of money, or whatever the hell you're trying to do. So it's all about that mindset of how hard you want to go. And a lot of people come up here and talk to you about a lot of bullshit. And they go home and they write shit to motivate you. Right now, I'm a 47-year-old smoke jumper out of British Columbia. I took 5 days off of jumping fires. I'm a retired man, got a shit ton of money, but it ain't fucking enough. I still must grind. Make up your own mission statement. What do you want to be in life? And once you do that, now you can work with somebody to get better. You can work with yourself to get better. But until you know what you want to stand for, you will always just be sitting down. You'll never stand for anything. Your life was basically the perfect grounds for training for where you need to go in your life. All the beatings, all the bullying, all the, you going through learning disabilities, all the struggles, it was the absolute perfect training ground for you to go to where you need to go. And that's how I started looking at my life versus woe is me, poopy pants, kick a rock down the street mentality. It was, nah, God just hooked you right the fuck up. I want to see that guy who immersed himself in fucking hell. And he thought about quitting and leaving and his wife and his kids. And why am I here? Is it worth it? All this crazy shit. And still said and found out a way to get through it. So basically that's the bottom line of it all. We all want to read about how we can quickly get somewhere. That's why the 6-minute abs and all sort of shit is so powerful. You may get some results from it, but they're not permanent. You have to make that a tattoo on your fucking brain. So when that hard time comes again, you don't forget it. You may forget it for a second, but you can go back in the cookie jar, I call it. It's something that we've all endured. And tomorrow, I go back to the grind again and again and again and again. I don't have time to put you into the hate bank. There's no hate. It's all filtered out, man, through the grind. People don't get it. There's great joy in the grind. Great joy in the suffer. It totally cleanses your body out, man, of any kind of hate. Makes you grow up. Because I know every motherfucker ain't going to do what I'm going to do. So this is how you level up. That's how you level up. I know there's a whole bunch of people with that right there. That fires me up. That makes me fucking happy what you just said. That brings joy to my life right there.
Why?
Because I know there's so many people that have the ability and just refuse to get off that couch. Refuse to study a few more hours. Refuse to go deeper, to go further. And that's where I gain the advantage. It's so easy to be great nowadays, my friend, because most people are weak. Most people don't want to go to that extra mile. Most people don't want to find that extra because it sucks. It's miserable. It's lonely. I became obsessed with being the baddest motherfucker that God ever created. Am I that? I don't care. I believe it. And I was trying to tell him, once you become obsessed with something, it's okay to be unbalanced for a while. It's okay. Don't be all this stuff people say, you got to be balanced. To be the best in the world at what you do. It's not about being a Navy SEAL, people. The best at what you do, you have to be unbalanced to find every bit of fucking energy and strength that you have to pull it off.
I think a hopeful message that anyone can think about who's in that hard period or in that start period is that it won't get harder. Like, this is the hardest part. And so if you can just make it through this, everything else is downhill. It's not that the things that the dragons you're going to slay aren't going to get bigger. They are. But you become so much more equipped to slay them back. And you have so many more allies. You have people in the stands cheering for you. You have the audience. You have all of these other things that are behind you. But at the beginning, it's just you with a stick against a bear. And arguably, that fight is a harder fight to win than beating a dragon when you have a nuclear bomb and 6 nations behind you. And so it's not even like the size of the hardship, it's just also the resources and how few of them you have, and how so much of the beginning is literally burning the one thing you have, which is time. Because you have no leverage. You don't have the money to pay other people to help you. You don't have the resources to go get someone no one can learn it for you. It's like there's a lot of the things that we care about a lot. Like, no one can work out for you. It doesn't matter how much money you have. No one can learn skills for you. And so in the early days, it feels so painful because you look around to see who can help you, and then you're like, fuck, it's me again. Most people's definition of work is a negative one, which is why they abhor it, which is also why they misunderstand so many people who I'll say quote here, are successful or ahead of them or whatever, is that both people, one person says the word work and the other person hears the word pain. And so the first step to becoming more successful is understanding the language that the people who are successful are using. They're actually defining the word differently. And so whatever that thing is that you actually enjoy doing, where you lose track of time when you're in it, even if it's challenging, but usually it is challenging, right? It's not easy because then it's boring, right? Which is also why the uncertainty thing is so key, right? To not knowing if it's gonna work or not. You are gonna work though, either way. Is that the people who are, quote, addicted to work make it easy to be addicted to work because they do things worth doing. And I think a lot of it is coming down to making sure that you take the few precious seconds that we have to do the few things that are worth doing for the rest of your life. And that's what's painful, is that it takes more effort to start in the beginning. And more people are right about the fact, they're like, hey, you're not going to hit it big. And guess what? A month in, you're not. But they're only measuring on months. And at 6 months, you're also not going to have hit it big yet. And they're going to be like, I'm still fucking right. And at a year, you're still not going to have hit it big. And they'll still be fucking right. And every day that you haven't hit it, they're going to feel like they were right. But they're wrong. Because they're measuring in days and you're measuring in decades.
But you have an excuse that only you need to believe. And you believe that excuse, so it excuses you from working harder on the stuff you know you should be doing but aren't. And that work, the work you know you should be doing but aren't, is the opportunity, because that is the work that your competitors also aren't doing. And I'm telling you from the bottom of my soul, it is so easy to beat people today. They are so soft. They have no work ethic. No one can stick with anything. Everyone's distracted. They're on social media. They're counting their fucking notifications because they can't stick with shit.
Every single person who wants to do something with their life and has done something with their life has gone through the exact chapter that you're going through. And it's the lonely chapter. It's the chapter where you don't fit in with your own friends, but you don't have the outcomes yet to fit into a new group of friends. And you're doing this thing, you're consuming content on the internet, you're doing these free tutorials online to try and figure out how to set up a podcast and where do I host this thing? And then you're going through this and you're like, is this even worth it? Because you have no signs of success, right? But if there's anything that you can take away from what we're saying right now, is that The sign of success is the hate that you get along the way. And what you can't do is bend the knee to their hate and fit back into the conformity because it's comfortable and it's warm. Because like in the Matrix, when Trinity opens the door, when Neo's about to go take the red pill and he wants to get out of the car, she says, Neo, you've been down that road and you know exactly where it leads. And I know that's not where you want to be. The only thing that you can do is win so big that all of them constantly compare themselves to you, and then you'll forget they exist. And that's when he said, success is the only revenge. He's like, it's not the best revenge. He's like, it's the only one. There's no other revenge. Because everything else is petty. Everything else does show that you were thinking about these people all day long, which means they win by default. He's like, all you can do is think about your goal and winning. He's like, and when you win, that's when you become so big that they shrink into irrelevance. You cast a shadow that no one even can see them behind you.
People only root for people who don't need it.
Like the amount of times when I was on my lonely path where I was too different from the friends that I had, but not successful enough to be friends with the people that I wanted to be friends with. That's when you want people to root for you. That's when you want people to support you. Once you've already won, people are like, he's amazing, he's so good. But like, that's the time when you need it the least. And so you always have to be the person who roots for you before everyone else does. And it's usually a single clap in the auditorium for a very long period of time. It is a slow clap that's just you rooting for you. Champions are broken. We're like, huh? It's like people look at champions and try and find something that champion has that they don't have. He's like, but it's not that at all. He's like, they lack something everyone else has, which is an off button. They just don't stop. And at the end of the day, like, if we're optimizing for outcomes, then the most broken person will win. The person who has the absolute biggest, desire for achievement, the absolute biggest fear or pain that they're running away from, every hardship that you encounter, if you reframe it as the story that you will someday tell to yourself of the person that you've become based on the dragons you've slain and the obstacles you've overcome, then I think that makes those obstacles a unique opportunity for self-improvement, because we can be grateful for these things. I think Jocko has a whole bit on this where whenever something bad happens, he says good. And I think it's a great trained response, because if something bad happens, my trained response isn't good. It's, I will tell the story someday. And so I think if you have that frame, then everything serves you. Because if something good happens, cool. If something bad happens, it'll be a story that I will someday tell. Because it assumes that you will live through it. And it assumes that you will eventually figure it out. And so then you can't lose.
If somebody is starting from scratch, what are the traits, skill sets that they should be cultivating in order to up the odds of their success?
They should focus on one thing in general, rather than lots of different things that you're not sure about. Because if you're starting out, everything looks like an opportunity. So the correct answer is all of them are opportunities, but all of them won't work unless you pick one, right? So you have to say no to all the other mistresses. So boom, you pick one. And then from there, I always say 6 figures is sell something to someone. That's it. And if you want more detail, sell something to someone. So it's one avatar, one product, one channel. So you don't have to figure out, how do I create 20 pieces of content across? It's like, just pick one channel, one media source, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, Twitter. Consistently start going on that, whether that's cold outbound, whether that's content, whether it's running paid ads, whether it's affiliates, word of mouth, whatever it is. And start reaching out to people there to start selling your stuff. And so I use something that I call the Rule 100, which is 100 primary actions, whether that's 100 minutes of content creation per day, 100 reach outs per day, $100 of ad spend per day. You have to pick one of them, but 100 per day, and you do that for 100 days, and I promise you'll be making 6 figures if you do that. And so people are afraid of not getting validated, or they're afraid of judgment that they perceive from other people that exist or don't exist in their lives. And so for whatever reason, they have this second voice that criticizes everything they do that in reality isn't even there, but is constantly present. It's like the antithesis of whatever the God figure is, but just the negative voice. And so I think that's the thing that stops most people from doing the stuff they know they need to do. Because if you think about like, whether it's want to get in shape or I want to have a better marriage or I want to make more money, most people on some level, at a basic level, they know what to do. And my proof point of like even making money, right? Most of us have had a bill that came up that was unexpected, a tax bill, a car breaks down, a health thing, whatever it is, and we find a way. And so when it's for someone else, people are use the actual resourcefulness that they have to make the money, but for whatever reason, they won't use that same resourcefulness to make it for themselves. And so I think that most people know if they want to work out, to get in shape or to lose weight, whatever, they know they need to eat fewer donuts and move more in general, but they don't, right? Because they're afraid of getting started, or they don't have the discipline to keep going, which is they can't make the short-term sacrifice for the long-term achievement. So big picture, it's like there's usually some fear that's preventing from doing it, and then how it looks from a behavioral standpoint is they do not make the short-term sacrifice of discomfort for the long-term achievement, independent of whatever path they're talking about.
So every time you watch or you consume a piece of content, you read a book, if you think, what behavior am I going to change as a result of this? If the answer is nothing, you wasted your time and you pretended to be learning, but you were really entertaining yourself. And so that frame has been incredibly helpful for me to speed up how quickly I take action, because I don't want to be a dodo bird. So that's two different ones, learning and intelligence. One that I've been thinking a lot about with Dr. K and I, we go back and forth, is motivation. So I'll tell you a story and then I'll bring it up, I'll bring it around. So I was at an event and a young lady said, "Alex, can you just give me 60 seconds of motivation?" And of course it's like, dance monkey dance. And so I took a deep breath and I was like, define motivation. And she just like melted. She had no idea, right? And I was like, so you want me to answer a question or make a statement about something that you can't even define. And so how would you have any idea of whether or not I actually did it? And so then I probably gave her the answer she really wanted, which was, let me define motivation for you. So motivation is the equal opposite of deprivation. So we are most motivated when we are deprived of something. I'm most motivated to sleep when I'm sleep deprived. I'm most motivated to eat when I'm deprived of food. I'm most motivated to have sex when I haven't had sex in a while. Now, that logic carries for physiological needs. But then when you get into psychological things or intangible constructs, so like let's think about money. By that same logic, you'd think, oh, poor people should be more motivated because they're deprived of money. But that we don't see that in reality. Many poor people are not that motivated. So it would then follow, and I've seen some incredibly rich people who are wildly hungry for money. And so then it would follow that the deprivation comes from our reference point, because money is intangible. And so it's how much do we perceive our deprivation around money? And so if all of my friends are billionaires and I'm worth $100 million, then I have a $900 million deficit that I have to come up. I'm $900 million poorer than the person who just is at $5,000 a month who wants to make $10,000 a month. I'm more motivated to make money than they are because I'm more deprived of it. And so in thinking about this, I then think, okay, what am I deprived of? That motivates me to go get it. And also when I want to try and judge the behavior of others or predict their behavior, I have to think, what things are they deprived of? Because I'll have a much stronger predictive power than trying to say, how do I motivate this person? Look at what they lack.
It's a much more accurate way to predict the things that people are going to chase after.
Operationalized. What do they do?
So I found this quote from Timothy Leary, and it's really fantastic. I think that you'll like this. Find the others. Admit it, you aren't like them. You're not even close. You may occasionally dress yourself up as one of them, watch the same mindless television shows as they do, maybe even eat the same fast food sometimes. But it seems that the more you try to fit in, the more you feel like an outsider. Watching normal people as they go about their automatic existences. For every time you say club passwords like, have a nice day and weather's awful today, eh? You yearn inside to say forbidden things like, tell me something that makes you cry, or what do you think deja vu is for? Face it, you even want to talk to that girl in the elevator. But what if that girl in the elevator and the balding man who walks past your cubicle at work are thinking the same thing? Who knows what you might learn from taking a chance on a conversation with a stranger? Everybody carries a piece of the puzzle. Nobody comes into your life by mere coincidence. Trust your instincts, do the unexpected, find the others.
There's many matrix undertones here. I mean, I think we might have covered this on a past podcast, but the idea that many people want to be exceptional, but they're afraid of being an exception, I think is such a it's wanting an outcome without the requirement that the outcome has. And so we can't do the same thing that everyone else approves of and then somehow get a different outcome that everyone else does. And so I think that's why high agency for me is something that I look for in other people, which is, asking someone, why do you believe what you believe? And we talked about this yesterday, but if you have a belief and you can't explain why you believe it, it's not yours, it's someone else's. And most people walk around parroting other people's words for the vast majority of their lives. And so they basically act as recorders, where they clicked record at one point of their life and then they click play in another time in their life, and they're just clicking record, play, record, play, record, play over and over again. And the reason there's that, in my opinion, that other self that's behind it is because none of those words are yours. And so it makes sense that people feel alone and they feel like they're acting because they never say what they think. And as a result, they also sound like everyone else because they were never themselves to begin with.
Problems are a feature of life, not a bug. There will never come a time when you have no problems. What? Did you think that you would just wake up one day and you're going to cease having problems? Like completing a video game and leveling up to a map where there's nothing there. That is never going to happen. Your problems will change, sure, but having problems is going nowhere. Dealing with problems is the cost of doing business as a human. Whatever negativity is consuming your thoughts probably won't matter in 3 months' time. Learning comes from the edges. Change is uncomfortable, and it rarely happens without a lot of stress, and many of the periods of radical and important change in your life happen because of the severe challenges that you faced. Would you pay the price back then for the insights and developments that you have now? If so, have faith that whatever stresses that you're facing right now will lead to a greater version of you in the future. Stop taking things so seriously. No one is getting out of this game alive, literally. In 3 generations, no one will even remember your name. And if that doesn't give you liberation to just drop your fucking problems and find some joy, I don't know what will. Life is inherently ridiculous and guaranteed to end sooner or later. So you might as well enjoy the ride. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be loved? Often, when we feel emotions like jealousy or frustration and anger, it's because we feel like a boundary has been crossed. That's actually the reason that anger exists evolutionarily at all. Before you have laws, you need a sense of right and wrong internally, so that if somebody crosses that, you can let them know with a sufficiently unhappy response to their transgression. And this crossing of boundary is exactly why these emotions arise. We feel like someone should have known that we would have felt this way if they did that thing, and they didn't. So we need to get them to realize their transgression. And in our less gracious moments, we hope to achieve this through mistreatment or passive aggression or mean comments or distancing. And in our more gracious moments, it's done through a calm and honest and open explanation of why something made us feel the way that it did, without accusing the other person of doing it on purpose. I think it's best to assume the best of others. We assume that our friend or partner didn't mean to make us upset, that the impact that their actions had on our psyche was done through ignorance, not negligence or malice. And maybe their behavior does warrant the silent treatment. Maybe we are righteous in our indignation. Maybe they should have known better. You may even be in the right for reacting this way. But do you want to be right, or do you want to be loved? Who can you sit in silence with and not feel like you need to fill it? Who do you have the least amount of filter around when you're with them? Those questions just superbly encourage this sort of frictionless version of you to flow out. And I think that that's finding people that you can sit in silence with and you don't have filter around is just what a great heuristic for people that you should spend your time with. This is from Mark Manson, and it's why he hates being around negative people. Being an asshole is a weak person's idea of strength. Complaining is their connection. Never let yourself be held back by other people's fears. People criticize what they're afraid to do themselves because bold action reminds them of their own inaction. If you're afraid to be criticized, why do you care about the opinions of those who are too timid to do it themselves? If you are the criticizer, does tearing someone who has the courage you lack make you feel better? And they cause unvocalized, unmet expectations, which drive unnecessary tension and resentment in relationships. And there's that Neil Strauss quote of unspoken expectations are premeditated resentments. Stop trading things that matter for ones that don't. This is from James Clear. If you already live a comfortable life, then choosing to make more money but live a worse daily life is a bad trade. And yet we talk ourselves into it all the time. We take promotions that pay more but swallow our free time. We already have a successful business but break ourselves trying to make it even more successful. Too much focus on wealth, not enough focus on lifestyle. And this is kind of goes back to the hidden and observable metrics thing that me and George Mack talk about, whereby the more observable and quantifiable and socially rewarded a particular metric is, the more acclaim that it gives you, the more status that it affords, the more that you're going to lean into that. And, quality of lifestyle, like real, what is the day-to-day existence of you like? How happy are you? How much spare time do you have to do the things that you care about? That is very hard to flex, and it's very hard to measure as well. But your bank account, it's pretty easy to measure, or the value of your house, or the number of bedrooms that it's got, or the growth of your company, or your job title, all of these things, super easy games. And too much focus on wealth, not enough focus on lifestyle is just a nice reframe. It reminds us, what are you trying to accumulate this wealth for? Presumably to afford yourself the kind of lifestyle that you enjoy. If you've already achieved a kind of lifestyle where you are happy and you then worsen that in an attempt to make more money, the bar stool is upside down. You're sacrificing the thing you want for the thing that's supposed to get it. You can defer happiness until you've reached a certain level of development. You say to yourself, I'll really start living when I finally mastered this new meditation technique, or got to single-digit body fat, or hit 6 figures a year income, or bought that new house, or read 100 books, or grown my channel to 1 million subscribers, or whatever. And personal growthers, like you, have probably learned that a sacrifice-reward dynamic is useful. And it is useful in the micro, but it's malignant in the macro. We teach ourselves that we need to do the tough things first so that we can enjoy the fun things later. And if that's go to the gym before watch some YouTube, I think that's fine. But if it's complete an arbitrary amount of life improving before actually feel like we can let ourselves enjoy life, it's not fine. And the perennially difficult balance of the personal growther is between being and becoming. It's between feeling enough and wanting to be better, between a desire for more and a satisfaction for what you already have. And the goal really should just be to come out of the shadows. Say what you mean what you say, and I think that would improve an awful lot of communication. Don't wait. Life is happening right now. And I've become pretty obsessed with the belief that life's duties will one day be out of the way, that you can then finally start doing the thing that you want and live your life fully. It's similar to that idea that when you've reached a particular level of personal development, you'll be able to, but this is even more ground floor than that. This is more applicable to more people, because even if you're not doing personal growth, there is this sense that you're just going to delay gratification. And I think that the idea that one day life's duties will be out of the way and that you can finally start doing the thing you want and living your life fully is a myth. I think it's a lie. And Marie-Louise von Franz talks about the provisional life. He says, there is a strange feeling that one is not yet in real life. For the time being, one is doing this or that, but there is always the fantasy that sometime in future, the real thing will come about. And it's similar to another idea from Gwynder Bogle called deferred happiness syndrome, the common feeling that your life has not begun, that your present reality is a mere prelude to some idyllic future. This idyll is a mirage that will fade as you approach, revealing that the prelude you rushed through was in fact the one to your death. Shadow sentences. So imagine that you've been dating someone and they haven't seen you for a week, and you ask what they're doing tonight, and they tell you that they're hanging out with some of their friends. What you want to say is, I really would like to see you soon, and it makes me worried when you spend time with your friends but not with me, and that it's because you don't actually want to be with me. But what you say instead is, oh, must be a very important night to see your friends again this week, is it? Glad that you've got so much spare time to catch up with them. Or you're out for dinner and your partner is on their phone a lot, and what you want to say is, hey, I'd love to speak, and I know that you're busy, but it makes me feel really good when you focus on me during dinner. Can your phone stuff wait until later? But what you actually say is, that's a very important message to be taking at this time. It's got to be really urgent for you to be answering it over dinner. Or another way to think about this is in terms of literal language or implied language. So people speaking directly are literal speakers. People using shadow sentences are implied speakers. So let's say that a friend comes around to your house to catch up. They would like something to eat. An implied speaker using shadow sentences would say, man, I should have eaten more today, hoping that you pick up on the cue and offer food. A literal speaker would say, hey man, sorry to ask, but I didn't have time to eat before I arrived. Have you got something that I can snack on, and I'll get you next time? So shadow sentences are not stating what you want or need, but instead saying a thing that you hope will cause the other person to realize what you want or need, and then getting upset if they don't. So you kind of gesture in the direction of the thing that you want without asking for it directly. And I think it prevents you from having to be open and vulnerable when it feels like someone else has done something slightly wrong. It protects you from rejection by not actually asking for anything. It's the ultimate expression of, if you love me, you'd know what was wrong. So shadow sentences are essentially speaking in code, hoping to be understood. How would you categorize what is happening with modern mental health?
Oh gosh, we're making it worse with too much treatment, too much diagnosis, and way too much psych meds, and convincing people who are otherwise well that they are unwell, that they have a mental health problem. We are introducing new symptoms and making existing symptoms worse.
Okay.
So normal sadness becomes depression. Normal worry becomes anxiety. No young people even use the word worry anymore. It's all, or nervous. It's all, I have anxiety. And they think of anxiety as something they have and therefore have to be treated out of. You could say, well, things are tough, but it's a question of what we're talking about, okay? So if you go back generations, we're not living through the Blitz. They're not facing Nazi Germany, right? They're not living through World War, Great Depression, things that, traditionally would expect to encourage a great deal of anxiety in kids. But there are environmental contaminants, right? And there are things that naturally make us unhappier, like isolation from friends, like no touching, online porn, all these things that are so unhealthy. But here's the thing to know, that if you have an unhealthy life, if you're out getting drunk, partying every day, but every night, but not making real connections in the world, okay? If you spend all your time online with online porn and online friends, and you're unhappy, if you go and delete that signal, you don't have bad mental health that you're unhappy. That's good mental health. It's a natural signal of the body saying, stop. We have to fix something about this life. You don't want to delete that signal. But if you're in a high pressure job and you're feeling anxious and you delete that signal, that's not a mental health problem. That's your mental health operating correctly Just like if you lost a loved one and you felt really sad. Gosh, that's a mentally healthy response. But instead, we're diagnosing the mental health as illness, and we're giving it, and we're over-treating it in ways that are really going to make you worse off.
How do you think about pulling yourself out of a negative mood? If someone wakes up on a morning and wrong side of the bed syndrome, what would be some of the places that you would say, look, here's a few things that you can do that can reliably change your mood alongside all of the other stuff that you need to do within a day? You can't just take the day off and fly to Cancun or something.
One of the most important things I learned in the last year with respect to this was that I don't want to confuse the feelings of happiness with I don't want to confuse the scent of happiness with the macronutrients of happiness, borrowing from Arthur Brooks' language. I think the other equally important thing I've learned in the last year, and I mean, I've learned this maybe sooner, but I've really been better at implementing it, is feelings exist for a reason.